Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Boys, we're 6 days away from spring practice being here. Look, jobs aren't won or lost in the spring, but we got 15 practices to kind of figure out what this football team looks like. What is the identity of this football team in 2024? You're losing a lot of production. You're losing 2,800 yards through the air in Joe Milton. You're losing 20 touchdowns through the air with Joe Milton. You're losing 7 touchdowns on the ground. You're losing a 1,000-yard rusher in Jalen Wright, but I think Tennessee's got some talent. I think, we go back to when Josh Heupel was hired, being at rock bottom and talking about how this is going to be 5, 6, 7-year rebuild. How do we bounce back? The NCAA investigation, but here we are going into year 4. We've had a 7-win season. We all remember 2022, 11 wins, Orange Bowl victory. Coming off of a 9-win season in 2023 that kind of feels like a letdown. Welcome to Tennessee football. This is what Tennessee football is supposed to be. Some of you young guys, a 9-win season is supposed to feel like a disappointment. What do we do in 2024? What is the identity of this football team? Obviously, the narrative, the Nico show starts now. There's some interesting position battles going into spring camp. And again, 15 practices. Nobody really wins or loses a job in spring camp, but we're going to get a look. We're going to get a little sneak peek of what this football team is going to look like. So I'm going to go through it, man. We're going to talk about some position groups that I think are locked and loaded. We're going to talk about some position groups that maybe have a question mark, and then we're going to look at some position groups that is full steam ahead into a competition. We talk about iron sharpens iron. Maybe this is a good thing. We're going to get into it, but as always, I need you guys to do me a quick favor. Take 2 seconds and hit that thumbs up just below this video. It helps the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. If you tune in every day, you like what we do, smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time here, welcome. We're not experts or insiders. This channel was built on the backs of the fans, for the fans, by the fans. If you like that idea, make sure you subscribe, click that bell for notifications. You're not going to miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. We got tons of content coming your way. We're going live tonight, as I do every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll play some NCAA football, but we'll also talk all things Tennessee football. Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, a live film breakdown. Coach Jay versus Coach Rice. They can pick any target that Tennessee is after, but Coach Rice has to go defense. Coach Jay has to go offense. That's going to be fun. Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, fan call-in show. That's the night before spring practice kicks off. So some of this stuff we're talking about today, you guys can come on. You can talk about it right here on the channel. Make sure those memberships are up to date. Hit that join button down below so you don't miss out on the fan call-in show. But let's get into it. Let's talk about it. This is a kind of a generic depth chart from ourlads.com, but it kind of gives us something to go off of, gives us some names out there. But when you talk about position groups, you talk about who's locked and loaded, it starts at the quarterback position, right? I talked about all the production, made a video a couple of weeks ago, J.D. Pickell talking about how far down the list Tennessee is in returning production. But what if that production is not elite? What if that production isn't up to your standard? What if that production fell off from 2022 to 2023, and we look first and foremost at the quarterback position? Yeah, we're losing almost 3,000 yards through the air. I think it has the opportunity to be better. It's the Nico show. We've talked it to death. We know what the scouting report says. We know what the hype says. We know he's a 5-star. We know he's the number 1 player in the class. Now it's time for Nico to go out and prove it. It is Nico's time. That's all I'm going to say. Running back position, Dylan Sampson, 604 rushing yards, 5.7 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns in 2023. He's a guy that I've said it. I think he's got a 1,000-yard season coming up in 2024, maybe even as much as 1,200. But who is that RB2? Who is behind Dylan Sampson? And that's what made 2023 leading the SEC in rushing yards per game. You had some reliability there. You had Jalen Wright, you had Jabari Small, you had Dylan Sampson. Do you have that in 2024? Is Cam Seldon ready to take that next step? He's a guy I'm excited about. I think, his versatility, being able to move him in motion, maybe split him out wide, bring him in the backfield. He can run, he can catch, he's quick, he's powerful. I'm excited about Cam Seldon, and, I think that running back room is going to be better than it was in 2023. Call me crazy, and that's no disrespect. Jalen Wright was an absolute stud. I actually spent most of last year arguing with people that Jalen Wright was better than Dylan Sampson. But now it's Dylan Sampson's turn. Free the cheetah. What about that defensive line? Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball, because when you look at the defensive line for 2024, I think it's going to be the strength of this Tennessee defense. You look inside. A lot of times with Rodney Garner's defensive line, with the way the recruiting has played out, we talk about guys on the edge. That's where they've really landed some studs. But let's start on the interior. You're returning Omari Thomas. You're returning Bryson Eason, Elijah Simmons, Omar Norman Lott. That's a lot of production from 2023 that you're returning in 2024. What about David Hobbs? Is he ready to take that next step? You know, we spent a lot of time in the offseason talking about the offensive line and Josh Heupel, Glenn Ellerbe, being able to get those guys to come back for that extra year, and that's huge. And we're going to talk about the offensive line here in just a moment, but a lot of people aren't talking about the fact that you're returning 4 legit dudes on the inside. Omar Norman Lott had 6 sacks on the year. That's some solid production on the interior. David Hobbs, Tyree Weathersby, another guy that had a lot of buzz going into 2023 prior to the injury. I think you got 6 really good dudes right there that we've rattled off on the interior. We know Rodney Garner wants to rotate a lot of guys. So that brings me to, where does Jackson Moy fit into this thing? The Stanford transfer on the interior. You got some dudes, man. You got some competition coming up, but I think the D-line is a strength, and then you blend that over to the edge position. James Pierce, 27 tackles last year, tied at the league lead for the SEC in sacks. I think he's going to ball out. You better enjoy James Pierce in 2024 because he's going to be off to the NFL. The question at that end position, who replaces Tyler Barron? And a lot of people want to say, man, Tyler Barron sucks. Tyler Barron wasn't that good. We need to upgrade Tyler Barron. Had 28 tackles and 6 sacks on the year. But I'm excited to see what Tyree West does. I'm excited to see what Tyree West does in 2024. He's a guy that really started to come on late. Thought he looked good in the Citrus Bowl. But the edge position, the defensive line, I think that potentially the best position group on this football team in 2024. What do you guys think? Put it in the comment section below. What do you think the best position group on this football team is going into 2024? A couple of groups I have questions about. The tight end position. And, you know, we were desperate, man. We had to hit the portal because really all you had was Ethan Davis coming back in 2024. And you know, you kind of talk about recruiting at the tight end position. You had some flips. You had some misses. It's going to be key. You've already got one in the boat for the class of 25. They've got to continue to add depth here. It's going to be Ethan Davis, Holden Stace, and who else? And I think Ethan Davis, I think he's looking for a coming out party. I think people are going to see just how good he is with Nico throwing the football to him. I think Holden Stace was a huge pickup, the number 1 ranked tight end in the transfer portal. I don't think it gets much better than that when you need to add a tight end to this roster. You also added Miles Kitselman from Alabama. Outside of that, you got Charlie Browder, a redshirt junior. You got Emmanuel Okoye, who creates a lot of buzz, redshirt freshman, obviously freak athlete. I still, to this day, I think Emmanuel Okoye could have contributed quicker at the edge position, but I think he was needed at the tight ends position. I don't expect Emmanuel Okoye to contribute again this year. And you guys can argue with me in the comment section. If you disagree, that's fine. I think he's got a ton of potential, ton of athleticism, but he is raw. He's not been playing football that long. I don't know that he's ready to contribute. The linebackers, still a little bit of a question mark here. You're going to be led by a 7th-year senior in Keenan Peely. We know a couple of guys that are going to contribute. That's Elijah Herring and Arian Carter, but both of those guys actually going to miss the entire spring camp. So it's going to give some of the young guns a chance. A Jeremiah Thielander, a guy that played in 5 games last year, had 35 tackles. Caleb Perry also played in 5 games, had 21 tackles. And then Jalen Smith, who redshirted. You know, Jalen Smith, we did a film breakdown on him. I really like his game. We'll see, man. It's going to be, obviously you don't want guys recovering from injuries, recovering from off-season surgeries with Elijah Herring and Arian Carter, but it's an opportunity for some of these young guys. And again, go back to when Heupel was hired, and we're going into spring camp number 1, and we've got a long snapper. Guys, understand this. Year 1, spring camp, after the mass exodus, we had a long snapper taking in, practice reps because we didn't have enough bodies to play the linebacker position. Now you're talking about 2 of your key contributors being out. You got a stud in Jeremiah Thielander, Caleb Perry, Jalen Smith. You got some boys. You got some dogs in there that can contribute as we go into spring camp. Another quick little question mark, but a group that I think is going to be upgraded in 2024, and that's the wide receivers. It's going to be, again, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and who? Tennessee has a ton of talent. They have a ton of talent, and I know the conversation of last year, was it Joe Milton, was it wide receivers? The wide receivers weren't as good as they needed to be, but there's a ton of talent on the way. Again, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and who? Does Brew bounce back? Is Brew 100%? Adding Chris Brazell from Tulane. And, obviously you're going to compare him to Dante Thornton, right? Dante Thornton transfers in from Oregon, didn't do anything, finally starts to come along, and then he gets injured. So Chris Brazzell, kind of similar. The difference is Brazzell actually had production, had 700-plus receiving yards at Tulane last year, 5 touchdowns as a redshirt freshman. So the question becomes, can he do that at the next level? Can he do that in the SEC? Can he do that with the big boys? But I'm excited about him. He's going to be competing, man. Chris Brazzell, Gold Jacket, Green Jacket, Dante Thornton. What about Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb, and Nathan Laycock? Who emerges out of that group? Because I think somebody's going to emerge, maybe one or two of those guys emerge. It's going to be hard to keep these guys in the room. I think some of these guys are going to look to hit the portal, go look for playing time, because you got a couple of studs coming up behind you in Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley, 2 highly rated freshman wide receivers, could possibly contribute in 2024. And I know, we talk about college football is different in 2024, the transfer portal. Oh, they just want to pack up their stuff and go home if they don't get an opportunity. Good for them. If they want to move on, move on. This is what we talk about when we talk about stacking recruiting classes. We talk about all this talent. When Chaz Nimrod signed, when Caleb Webb signed, when Nathan Laycock signed, his stock went way up. Everybody was talking about the kid that committed to Ohio State. It's all Carnell Tate. Nathan Laycock commits, they flip. His stock went up, Carnell Tate's stock went down, but now can you develop them? Somebody called me out on that the other day. They said, Boogie, what is Carnell Tate doing at Ohio State versus what is Nathan Laycock doing? But you're adding this talent, and then let the best man win. If Mike Matthews is better than Nathan Laycock and he transfers, then so be it. Guess what? We got Mike Matthews. Go recruit another one this next cycle. That's the way it works. Now, there's going to be some big-time position battles going into the spring, then more particularly going into the fall. The biggest one for me starts in the secondary, right? You got to start in the secondary because of the mass exodus. And, Tennessee struggled with pass defense the last couple of years. So is this an upgrade? Again, is this an overhaul to upgrade? You lost 7 defensive backs to the portal. And then on top of that, you lost Gabe Judy Lawley, D. Williams, Kamal Haddon, Jalen McCullough, all out of eligibility. I know a lot of people want to talk about Jalen McCullough and not being a very good football player, not being fast enough to play in the SEC. Still started 51 out of the last 55 Tennessee football games, going all the way back to 2019. So you got a lot of guys that you got to replace, and I think we'll start at the corner position. You added Jermod McCoy, 31 tackles a year ago for Oregon State, 2 picks, 7 pass breakups, and a fumble recovery. This kid was a 3-star coming out of high school, but he was a 4-star in the portal. And again, transferring in, I think he's coming in to lock down that corner position. We did a film breakdown on him. Coach Jay really high on Jermod McCoy. If you've missed it, go back to the playlist, give that a watch, and see what Jermod McCoy's game is all about. And it's not high school tape. We broke down his Oregon State film. If you want to learn more about his game, again, it's under the playlist, breaking down the film with Coach Jay. Also, opposite of him, Ricky Gibson, 4-star out of the class of 23, had 9 tackles and a pass breakup last season. He was starting to come on there towards the end, a guy that I'm excited about. Then you look at depth behind those guys. Right, it's a physical, it's a violent game. We need depth. You look at that defensive line, it's got depth. You look at the secondary, do we really have the depth behind Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson? You got Jalen McMurray transferring in from Temple. Started 2 seasons there. Is he ready for that next step? You got a couple of sophomores, and we talk about Ricky Gibson being a highly rated prospect in the class of 23. You landed 3 really good corners that cycle. Not only Ricky Gibson, but also Christian Conyer, one of the top players out of the state of Kentucky. Also Jordan Matthews, highly rated prospect. He is a guy that was a huge win on the recruiting trail. So is one or both of those guys ready to take the next step? I would throw Christian Harrison in there with those guys as well as a redshirt sophomore. In the secondary, for me, probably the most interesting position for me to watch is that star position. I think Jordan Thomas probably going to be penciled in as your starter. Only played in 5 games last year, had 18 tackles. Behind him, you got a walk-on in Will Brooks, who also played in 5 games, got a ton of run against Georgia, and that just kind of makes you scratch your head. Why is a walk-on out there against Georgia? So the question becomes, Boo Carter. A lot of people think Boo Carter is going to play that star position. Is he ready? Can he come along fast enough as a true freshman to play that star position? Everybody knows who Boo Carter is. 4-star athlete from Bradley Central in Cleveland, Tennessee. Just dynamic, man. Dynamic on both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively. Probably going to play a little special teams for Tennessee as well. I would look for him to return kicks, maybe punts in the 2024 season. But is he ready to lock down that star position at safety? You look at Andre Turrentine. He started the last 3 games. It's a lot of these position groups. It's okay, we got this guy and who. We got these guys and who. You're always looking for that other position. Same thing with the safety position. Who's starting across from Andre Turrentine, who had 18 tackles in 5 games a year ago? Beside him, is it going to be Jacoby Thomas, a 2-year starter at MTSU? Is he ready? Again, you talk about a guy coming from Oregon State. You feel a little bit more confident. You start talking about a guy from Tulane or from Temple or from MTSU. The question is always, are they ready to take that next step? Could also be John Slaughter, a sophomore. We'll see. One last position group that I want to talk about is the offensive line going into the 2024 spring camp. And, you got to be excited. You got to be excited returning 4 out of your 5 offensive starters on the offensive line. You're upgrading from Gerald Mincey to Lance Hurd. The big question mark for everybody is that left guard position, right? Andrej Karic transferred in from Texas, only started 4 games last year before he got hurt. PFF grade for the year was a 59. You're probably scratching your head saying, Boogie, you think he's going to be okay? You think he's good enough? Well, to put it in perspective, Cooper Mays graded out at a 62, John Campbell at a 59.5, so take it for what it's worth. He's going to be in a competition. Andrej Karic, probably Jackson Lampley going to be in there, a 6-year senior. I think he's a guy that could compete for that left guard position. Also some buzz about Dane Davis possibly sliding inside and competing for that job. The bottom line to me is I think your starting 5 are going to be pretty solid. Time for some of those young guys to come on. Shamrod Umarov, Bison Lang, Messiah Reddick. And, I don't expect too much from the freshmen. I'm excited about Bennett Warren, Max Anderson, Gage Ginther. A lot of people think he's underrated. William Satterwright. Are they going to be ready for 2025? That's my question for the freshmen. That's going to do it for this one. That's some position groups I'm excited about, some question marks, and some big-time battles going into spring camp. Jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. What position groups are you going to be watching? Who do you think the breakout players are for 2024? And as always, guys, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. Go check out the Talkin VAWLS merch. You know where. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to keep those memberships. Get those memberships upgraded and up to date as we roll back the fan call-in shows every Sunday throughout spring camp. But that is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.